Good, Arundhati. How are you?
I'm good. You tell me how excited you are because the film is releasing. We have watched the trailer and we are absolutely loving the vibe of it. So, what kind of response that you're getting so far, and how many butterflies are there in the stomach?
There's a lot of excitement, and the buzz the trailer has sort of caused is so overwhelming and positive. I've had young South Asian DJs from all over message me and tell me that, oh my God, this is like our story. We see ourselves in this. I wish we had
Yeah,
this
this is like
growing
our
up.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the DJ community feels super excited, but also on the larger sort of spectrum, a lot of South Asians are super happy to see representation on screen. So that's exciting, and yeah, and everybody's also excited to see Abhay, and he shared the trailer, and it's just created another fun buzz. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But there are two, three things that I have to talk about. Firstly, how did you convince Abhay to play a father of a teenage daughter?
You have to ask Abhay that. You have to ask him. You have to ask him the story of how I convinced him. But Abhay is known to do unconventional things and try something different and try things out of the box.
Yeah.
So it wasn't surprising when he said yes for this, and yeah, he plays a really cool dad in the film.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with Abhay, and I just said, I must say that you're quite a handsome dad, and he's like, well.
Yeah, he'd be very happy to hear that. We made him
Yeah.
a fun, cool Disney dad.
Yeah, that's so true. But tell me, we are talking about the representation, right? We are talking about culture. We are talking about the fusion. That constantly is happening. Of the next generation of two different culture. Tell me, how responsible did you feel when you were making the film to get the representation correct?
It was very important. I think it's the first thing that excited me about the project, because this was a beautiful opportunity to present the Indian culture to the Disney Channel audience, and bring and celebrate the sort of Indian culture with a mainstream audience. But it was important to get sort of those specifics right, to make sure that the representation is authentic, to make sure that if somebody's playing an immigrant like Abhay's character, that he's using his natural accent. It's not a put on accent. And I think those things became very important, not just in casting, but in every department, whether it was production design, it was sort of the camera work, where because we've shot sort of a lovely fun Bollywood number where the grandmother's character is dancing to Jab Chai, and we have another sort of end celebration song that Salim Suleiman have done. So it was very important to get that eclectic fusion the right way. And while that was exciting, it was also important to make sure everybody here in every
Yes.
department gets that memo. And I had such an incredible crew that they all made sure, one, in their team there was also diversity. So whether it was a makeup artist who was Indian, or it was somebody in the costume department, or somebody or in the music. So every department that you sort of will see in the film has that authentic touch that sort of come into it. And yeah, and that was important.
Right. 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 It is very interesting the way, I was just talking to Abhay regarding the same, that, how the conversation has changed. And it is important to change the conversation in terms of, representing every community correct, especially in world cinema, right? It is the same thing happening with Indian community as well, Indian characters, the way it is presented in American cinema. Tell me, how do you look at it as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, the power of cinema to actually bring about that change in conversation?
I think, just to have representation on screen and off screen is a true reflection of the world we live in, right? So whether it's getting unique voices sort of like myself, it was amazing for Disney to have an Indian American protagonist and then have an Indian filmmaker tell that story. And I think those decisions make a big impact on what sort of product goes out there and what that film does. And I think cinema has that power to influence, because a lot of the people who've been messaging me said we never had something like that growing up. I wish we had something like that growing up. And now with those decisions being made at the top level and at studios taking sort of representation and diversity seriously,
Yes.
it translates across the board. And now we have a film that somebody can watch and be like, oh yeah, I've seen myself on screen. I don't have to relate to this sort of person who doesn't look like me. And that sort of community, the Indian diaspora here, the Indian Americans growing up here, for them to see themselves represented on screen is important, and it's changing.
Yeah, for sure. If I ask you two element of very stereotype, right, of Indian character that we get to see in international cinema that needs to be stopped like right now, what are those two things would be for you from your observation?
I think it would just be like people talking in really put on accents, because people have a very standard typical idea of like what an Indian accent is. So I think that is a big put off, because the Indian accent is so nuanced. I have an Indian accent, and you don't hear me talking like that. so I think that is important. And I think the second is casting Indians and even sort of broader South Asians in meaningful roles, in roles that are sort of leading, and they're not just sort of supporting or background characters. And I think that those two things are key to sort of drive something home.
Will you agree with me if I say that Priyanka Chopra is definitely one of those artists who is actually changing the game in the present time?
Oh, absolutely. I think she's one of the few people who have sort of really cut through, and she's making the best of both the worlds. Not only she's doing stuff like Quantico, right? She's leading that, and she's a brand. She's a household name here. So it's incredible what she's been able to do to sort of break through the industry here, and she's definitely a game changer for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your words and giving your time. Really, it was really lovely talking to you, and wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arundhati. Thank you. Take care.